The Zerath Dawn drifted through the deep stretch of the neutral zone, its silver hull scarred from weeks of cargo runs between distant star systems. Captain Kaylor sat in the command chair, his four slender arms moving quickly over the console. The cargo bay was filled with rare minerals, medical supplies, and a few passengers who had paid extra to avoid the long and dangerous trade routes. But today, the neutral zone was not neutral at all. The first sign of trouble came as a sharp warning, tone on the navigation panel. Sensors picked up multiple fast-moving objects closing in. Kaylor's second-in-command, a young officer named Silra, scanned the display and turned pale. "Captain, they are raider ships. 7 of them. Speed and formation suggest they mean to intercept us." Kaylor's chest tightened. Raiders out here were brutal. They didn't just take cargo. They often left no survivors. "Full speed ahead," he ordered, his voice calm but firm. "And send a wideband distress call. Repeat it every 30 seconds. The Zerath Dawn's engines roared to life, but the raiders were faster. Within minutes, the first wave of enemy fire struck their shields. The bridge shook, sparks flying from overloaded panels. "Shields at 60%, Silra shouted. Kaylor knew they wouldn't last long. The nearest Allied patrol was days away. Their distress signal might be heard, but even if it was, who would risk entering raider territory? Still, they kept transmitting. "To any vessel in range, this is the cargo ship Zerath Dawn. We are under attack by unknown raider force. Our engines are damaged, shields failing. Please assist." Light years away, in a secure facility on Earth, a small team of duty officers monitored incoming signals from deep space. Most were routine. Navigation updates, minor disputes between traders or technical issues. But when the distress call from the Zerath Dawn came through, the room went silent. "Neutral zone," one officer muttered. "Raider-heavy region. No one's going to touch that." Another officer frowned. "Command will want to know. Log it." They forwarded the call up the chain. Within minutes, it reached the desk of Fleet Command. Most high-ranking officers were busy with a joint training exercise, but one name appeared quickly on the dispatch screen: Commander Elena Voss. She was Earth's top fighter pilot, known across the fleet for her quick reflexes and impossible escapes. Her sleek, advanced craft, the Falcon's Edge, was docked and ready. Elena had been reviewing flight simulations when the alert reached her. She read the details, her brow furrowing. One cargo ship, multiple raider contacts. "Engines failing," she muttered under her breath. A voice came through her earpiece. "Commander Voss, you're the only pilot in range. Nearest support is at least 2 hours behind you." She didn't hesitate. "Prepare the Falcon's Edge for launch. I'm going." Minutes later, her craft streaked out of Earth's orbital station, thrusters burning bright against the black. The Falcon's Edge was built for speed and precision combat, its wings folding and shifting for maximum maneuverability. Inside the cockpit, Elena reviewed the incoming data. The Zerath Dawn's distress signal was still active, though its transmission was growing weaker. That meant their power reserves were dropping. "Hang in there," she murmured. Meanwhile, on the Zerath Dawn, the situation was worsening. 3 more enemy shots hit their shields, reducing them to a flicker of energy. Oxygen warnings began flashing across the bridge's main display. Silra's voice cracked. "Life support is failing, Captain." Kaylor kept his focus. "All crew to emergency stations. Keep sending that signal. Someone might hear it." But deep down, he doubted it. The raiders moved in closer, their dark, jagged ships circling like predators. One of them hailed the Zerath Dawn, the image of a scarred alien face appearing on their comm screen. "Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded," the raider growled. "Resist, and we'll destroy you." Kaylor said nothing, cutting the channel. And then, just as the raiders prepared another volley, something appeared on the far edge of their sensors. A fast-moving blip approaching at impossible speed. "Captain." "Another contact!" Silra shouted. "Small craft, human design." The raiders noticed too. One of them broke formation, moving to intercept the newcomer. In her cockpit, Elena gripped the controls and pushed her craft into a tight roll, avoiding the first barrage from the raider scout. She activated her comms and spoke directly to the Zerath Dawn. Cargo vessel Zerath Dawn, this is Commander Elena Voss of the Earth Fleet. I'm here to assist. Hold position and prepare for evasive maneuvers. Kaelor stared at the screen, disbelief on his face. A single human fighter? Against this many? Captain, Silra said softly, look at the way she's moving. Elena's ship cut through the space between raiders, her weapons firing in precise bursts. She targeted engines and weapon mounts instead of destroying the ships outright, leaving them adrift. The sudden losses rattled the raiders, forcing them to pull back slightly. On the Zerath Dawn, cheers broke out among the crew. Kaelor's voice rose over the noise. Focus on repairs! She's buying us time! Elena swept, around for another pass, dodging incoming fire with razor-sharp turns. But more raider ships were coming in from the far side of the field. She knew she couldn't win a drawn-out battle alone. Switching back to the alien cruise channel, she spoke quickly. Captain Kaelor, I'm going to clear you a path. When I give the signal, push your engines as hard as you can. Our engines are damaged, Kaelor replied. Then use whatever's left, she said. I'll get you through. As the Zerath Dawn's crew scrambled to prepare, Elena dove straight into the center of the raider formation. Her cannons fired in rapid bursts, forcing enemy ships to scatter. Her sudden, aggressive push created a gap in their lines. Now, she called. The Zerath Dawn surged forward, smoke trailing from its vents. Elena pulled up alongside them, intercepting any raider ship that tried to follow. For a brief moment, it seemed they might actually make it. But as they cleared the main group, new blips appeared on Elena's radar. Heavier ships, and a lot more of them. Her jaw tightened. This was only the beginning. The raider reinforcements came in fast. 5 heavy-class ships with thick armor and weapons far more dangerous than the smaller craft Elena had been dodging. Their engines burned with a red glare, and their formation cut off the escape route, like a wall. From the cockpit of the Falcon's Edge, Elena studied them with sharp eyes. She knew she couldn't take them all head-on. Not without getting the Zerath Dawn caught in the crossfire. Captain Kaelor, she called over comms. Adjust course 20 degrees starboard. Keep your shields toward the incoming ships. I'll draw them off. On the Zerath Dawn, Kaelor's crew exchanged uneasy glances. Silra spoke up, her voice trembling. She's going right at them. Kaelor's eyes stayed on the display. Then let's hope she's as good as she sounds. Elena pushed the Falcon's Edge into a steep climb, darting above the Zerath Dawn and heading straight for the nearest heavy raider. The ship's sensors locked onto her, missiles launching in quick succession. But Elena's fighter twisted in mid-flight, slipping between the missiles so close she could see their guidance fins spinning. With a burst of countermeasures, the missiles exploded harmlessly behind her. She rolled into an attack run, her cannons firing at the heavy ship's port thrusters. Sparks burst from the raider's engines, slowing its turn. Another raider swung in to block her. But Elena cut her throttle and spun the Falcon's Edge in a full pivot, letting the enemy overshoot before she hit them with a precision shot to their sensor array. That's too crippled, she muttered to herself. But the others were still coming. The Zerath Dawn rocked violently as the remaining heavy ships opened fire. Their shields shuddered, dropping closer to collapse. Shields at 20%, Silra shouted. Captain, we can't take another barrage. Kaelor slammed one fist onto the arm of his chair. Helm, follow her instructions exactly. She's keeping us alive. Elena looped back around, firing short bursts at the raiders who were locked onto the cargo ship. She wasn't aiming to destroy, not yet, only to keep their focus on her. One of the heavy raiders took the bait and began chasing her at full speed. She led it away, weaving through the debris field left by the earlier fight. Inside her, helmet. She was calm, breathing steady. She'd been in situations like this before, always outnumbered, always outgunned, and every time the key was to make the enemy believe they were in control. Right until they weren't. She flew low, across a broken asteroid, skimming so close to the surface that chunks of rock passed just meters beneath her wings. The raider tried to follow, but its larger frame scraped the rock, damaging its hull. Elena pulled up sharply, letting the ship slam into a floating boulder and spin out of control. 3 heavy ships remained, still pressing the Zareth Dawn. "Captain," Elena called over the channel, "how much power can you give your engines?" "Not much," Kaylor replied. "We're running on backup drives." "Give me just enough to hit top speed for 30 seconds, she said. "When I say go, you run straight for those coordinates I'm sending now." Kaylor looked at the coordinates on his display. They pointed toward a narrow gap between 2 massive asteroids, a route no sane pilot would try. "You're telling me to fly through there?" he asked. "You want to live, don't you?" Elena replied without hesitation. On the bridge of the Zareth Dawn, the crew braced themselves. Kaylor gave the order. "Ready main drive for short burst. Helm, when she calls it, we move." Elena darted back toward the cargo ship, firing at the heavy ships in quick, angled bursts to make them shift formation. She wanted them closer together, right where she needed them. "Ready! Ready! Now!" she shouted. The Zareth Dawn's engines roared, surging forward toward the deadly asteroid gap. Elena dove behind them, firing at the pursuing raiders to push them into the same narrow path. The gap was a twisting corridor of spinning rock and drifting debris, its walls constantly shifting as gravitational pulls moved the asteroids. One wrong turn, and a ship would be crushed. Elena took point, guiding the Zareth Dawn through the corridor at full speed. The raiders followed, confident they could outgun her before she reached the other side. But Elena had other plans. "Captain, when you see me pull up, you cut your power and drift," she said. "Do not fire your thrusters no matter what." As they reached the midpoint of the corridor, Elena shot upward, banking hard. Kaylor's crew followed her orders, cutting power and drifting silently. The raiders didn't slow, and they didn't notice the massive asteroid rotating just ahead. By the time they did, it was too late. The first 2 heavy ships slammed into its surface, their shields collapsing instantly under the impact. The third managed to swerve, but in doing so, it lost sight of the Zareth Dawn. Elena looped back, down, rejoining the cargo ship and reigniting her thrusters. "Looks like we lost them," Silra said in awe. "Not yet," Elena replied. "The last one's still out there." Sure enough, the final heavy raider emerged from the corridor, weapons, armed. Elena's sensors lit up with a missile lock warning. She knew she had to finish this one before it could call for more reinforcements. Pulling the Falcon's edge into a tight turn, she faced the raider head-on. Both ships fired at once. Her pulse cannons against its missile spread. She weaved through the missiles, taking a few hits to her shields, but keeping her course steady. Then she did something no raider expected. She cut her engines entirely. Her ship drifted silently toward them, the raiders targeting struggling to keep a lock without her thrusters burning. At the last second, she reignited her engines at full power, spinning under the raider's belly and firing directly into its exposed cooling vents. The explosion was brief but bright, sending the raider tumbling into the asteroid field. Elena steadied her ship and checked the radar. "All clear, for now." Kaylor's voice came through, steady but filled with gratitude. "Commander Voss, I think you just saved us twice in 1 hour." "We're not safe yet," Elena said. "Those raiders won't give up so easily. I'll escort you until we find somewhere to hide." On the Zareth Dawn, the crew looked at one another with a mix of relief and disbelief. A single human pilot had outmaneuvered one of the deadliest raider groups in the sector, Silra whispered, almost to herself. "If this is what one human can do, what is their fleet like?" Elena adjusted her course, scanning ahead. She had bought them breathing room, but the deeper challenge was still to come, because somewhere beyond the edge of her sensors, The Raiders' main cruiser was waiting. The space ahead was dark, too quiet. It was the kind of quiet that meant danger was close. Commander Elena Voss kept her hands steady on the controls of the Falcon's Edge as she scanned the void. The Zerath Dawn followed behind her, its engines, still sputtering from the earlier fight. Inside her helmet, she kept her voice calm when she spoke to Captain Kaylor. "Keep your shields at full strength even if it slows you down. If I'm right, the Raiders haven't given up. They're waiting for us." Kaylor replied. "You think their main ship is ahead?" "Yes," Elena said. "And if it's the ship I think it is, it'll be big, slow, and armed to the teeth." The crew of the Zerath Dawn exchanged nervous glances. Silra adjusted the navigation panel, trying to scan further ahead, but the readings came back, scrambled. "Sensor interference," Silra reported. "Something is jamming our systems." Elena didn't need the sensors to confirm her suspicion. The darkness ahead suddenly shifted, revealing a massive shape. The Raider cruiser emerged from the shadows, its hull bristling with heavy cannons. It was at least 10 times the size of the Falcon's Edge and 5 times the size of the Zerath Dawn. Its engines glowed faintly, and large metal spikes lined its sides, a design meant to ram smaller ships. "There it is," Elena muttered. The cruiser's comm system crackled to life, and a deep, mocking voice filled both ships. "So, this is the human who thinks she can stand against us. You've been a nuisance long enough. Surrender the cargo vessel, and we might let you live." Elena's tone was calm, almost cold. "Not going to happen," the Raider captain laughed, a sound like metal grinding. "Then your death will be quick." Without another word, the cruiser opened fire. Beams of red energy tore through space, forcing Elena to roll the Falcon's Edge into a steep dive. "Captain Kaylor, stay directly behind me," she ordered. "I'll draw their fire." The cruiser's gunners adjusted quickly, targeting both ships at once. Elena's fighter darted from side to side, releasing bursts from her cannons to keep their aim off balance. Each time they locked, onto the Zerath Dawn, she swooped in to intercept, forcing them to fire at her instead. Inside the cargo ship, crew members braced themselves as shock waves from near misses rattled the hull. Silra shouted updates, shield strength, engine temperature, and distance to the edge of the jammer field. Elena's mind was working fast. She couldn't destroy a ship this big with direct fire alone. She needed to outthink them. "Kaylor," she called, "does your ship still have any mines in its defense stores?" "Yes," Kaylor replied, "but they're inactive. We'd need time to arm them." "Arm them now," she said. "I have an idea." While the Zerath Dawn's crew worked, Elena began a dangerous game. She pushed the Falcon's Edge closer, to the cruiser, weaving between its gunfire. She knew that at this range, they would try to launch fighters to overwhelm her. Sure enough, 2 smaller Raider craft detached from the cruiser's belly, chasing her at high speed. Elena flipped her fighter into a sudden upward spin, letting the first Raider overshoot. She blasted its rear thrusters, sending it tumbling out of control. The second came in from the side, but she lured it into the cruiser's own gunfire, which ripped through its wing. With the fighters gone, she had a brief opening. She shot upward, drawing the cruiser's attention away from the Zerath Dawn. "Mines are armed," Kaylor reported. "Good. On my signal. Drop them behind you," she said. Elena looped back around and sped toward the cargo ship, her cannons, firing to keep the cruiser at bay. As she passed the Zerath Dawn, she called out, "Now!" The mines drifted free from the cargo bay, small and silent in the void. Elena fired a single shot at one of them, triggering a chain reaction. The explosion wasn't powerful enough to destroy the cruiser, but it was enough to send a wall of debris toward it. Chunks of rock and metal slammed into the cruiser's shields, overloading several sections. "Their port shields are down," Silra shouted. Elena's eyes narrowed. "Then that's where we hit them." She dove toward the weakened side, her pulse cannons hammering the exposed armor. The Zerath Dawn joined in, firing its damaged but still functional forward gun. The combined assault tore a gash in the cruiser's hull, venting air and sparks into space. But the victory was short-lived. The cruiser's engines flared, and it turned with surprising speed. "They're charging straight at us," Kaylor warned. Elena recognized the maneuver immediately. "They were going to ram, full reverse," she ordered. Both ships pulled back hard, but the cruiser was massive, and its momentum carried it forward like a tidal wave. Elena darted left, barely avoiding the collision, but the Zerath Dawn wasn't as fast. The cruiser's side scraped. "The cargo ship's hull, sending it spinning. We've lost stabilizers," Silra cried. Elena didn't hesitate. She dove under the cruiser, locked her tractor beam onto the Zerath Dawn, and fired her main thrusters at maximum. The strain was intense. Alarms screamed in her cockpit as her own ship's heat levels climbed. But slowly, the Zerath Dawn steadied. "You're clear," Elena panted. The cruiser, now turning for another pass, loomed large on her sensors. She knew they couldn't keep trading blows like this. "Captain, there's a dense asteroid belt 200 kilometers to our port side," she said. "If we can make it there, they won't be able to use their heavy guns." Kaylor nodded. "Set the course." Elena fired a few more bursts at the cruiser to distract them, then led the Zerath Dawn toward the belt. The cruiser followed, firing wildly, but the asteroids drew closer. As they reached the outer edge, Elena maneuvered into the twisting lanes of rock. The Zerath Dawn followed close behind. The cruiser stopped at the edge, unable to fit its massive frame through the narrow passages. Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Looks like we bought ourselves some time," but deep inside she knew this was far from over. The cruiser wouldn't wait forever. It would call for more ships, and next time there would be no place to hide. The asteroid belt loomed around them like a city of drifting stone. Massive boulders spun slowly in the blackness, some the size of small moons, others no bigger than a shuttle. The space between them was tight and unpredictable, with sudden shifts in gravity caused by their movement. Commander Elena Voss guided the Falcon's edge through the first narrow passage, her eyes moving constantly between her sensors and the debris ahead. Behind her, the Zerath Dawn followed carefully, its damaged engines groaning with every course correction. "Keep your speed steady," Elena advised over comms. "If you push too fast, you'll lose control in the turns." Captain Kaylor's voice came back, calm but tense. "Understood. Silra, match her pace." The asteroid belt was their temporary shield, but Elena knew they couldn't stay here forever. The raider cruiser was waiting just outside, and it wouldn't take long before they tried sending smaller ships in after them. "Commander," Silra called, "I'm detecting movement inside the belt, not just the rocks. Could be ships." Elena narrowed her eyes. "Of course. This place is perfect for an ambush." She eased her fighter forward, weaving between two jagged stones, and soon her sensors picked up faint energy signatures. 3 smaller raider craft emerged from the shadows. Ahead, their black hulls blending almost perfectly with the dark stone. They fired first, the bright streaks of plasma lighting the tight corridor. Elena reacted instantly, pulling the Falcon's edge into a sharp roll and returning fire. One of her shots clipped the lead raider, sending it spinning into an asteroid, where it exploded in a burst of light. "Two left," she said. The Zerath Dawn's forward gun fired a few shots, forcing the other raiders to split up. One veered toward Elena, the other toward the cargo ship. "Silra, hold your fire until you have a clear shot," Kaylor ordered. Elena accelerated toward her target, dodging between chunks of rock that passed so close they scraped the paint on. Her fighter. She looped behind the raider and fired at its engine, disabling it. The ship drifted helplessly into the belt, its pilot forced to eject before collision. Meanwhile, the raider chasing the Zerath Dawn darted dangerously close, peppering the cargo ship's shields with fire. Elena's voice came sharp over comms. "Bank left, Kaylor, now!" The Zerath Dawn turned sharply, and the pursuing raider overshot its target. Elena swooped in from above, firing 2 precise bursts that tore through the raider's wing. The craft spun away, vanishing behind. A tumbling asteroid. Clear, Elena reported. The Zerath Dawn's crew let out relieved breaths, but Kalor's tone stayed serious. That was only the first wave. The raider captain will keep sending more until we're forced out. Elena nodded to herself. Then we make it too costly for them. She guided them deeper into the belt, where the asteroids were denser and the paths more twisting. Here, their larger pursuers would struggle to maneuver, but her nimble fighter had the advantage. For the next hour, they moved carefully, scanning for threats. Elena taught the Zerath Dawn's gunners how to use the rocks as cover, timing their shots so the enemy couldn't easily track them. Then Silra spotted something ahead, a cluster of broken mining platforms abandoned long ago. Perfect, Elena said. We can use those. She explained her plan quickly. The platform's metal frames could be rigged to collapse on passing ships. Kalor's crew began releasing small charges they had in storage, attaching them to the beams as they passed. Minutes later, more raider ships entered the belt. 3 fast interceptors came in from the far side, racing to cut them off. Elena let them get close, weaving just enough to keep them in pursuit. She led them straight through the mining structures. As the raiders passed under one of the frames, Kalor detonated the charges. The beams broke apart, huge metal pieces slamming into the interceptors. 2 were destroyed instantly. The third barely escaped, but its wings were torn, forcing it to retreat. That should make them think twice, Kalor said. But Elena shook her head. They'll just send more, and they'll send better pilots next time. Silra's voice came over comms again. Commander, new contact. Bigger than the others. Reading high-energy output. Elena's stomach tightened. She knew what it was before she saw it. A raider gunship emerged from behind a large asteroid, its heavy cannons already charging. It was too big to be nimble but small enough to navigate the belt's wider lanes. Kalor, stay back, Elena ordered. I'll draw it away. She accelerated toward the gunship, dodging its first barrage. The weapon blasts tore through the rock around her, sending fragments spinning in all directions. Elena flew dangerously close to a massive asteroid, skimming along its surface to make the gunship's shots risk hitting the rock. She then pulled, up sharply, leading the gunship into a tighter lane where it had less room to turn. The gunship's pilot followed, confident in its superior firepower. But Elena's goal wasn't to win a head-to-head battle. She lured the gunship toward 2 asteroids that were slowly rotating toward each other. The gap between them was shrinking every second. At the last possible moment, she slipped through the narrowing space. The gunship tried to follow, and didn't make it. The asteroids crushed its hull, breaking it apart in a flash of light. And debris. Gunship down, Elena said, steadying her breathing. The Zerath Dawn caught up, its crew staring at the wreckage in awe. Commander, Kalor said slowly, you've done more for us than I can repay, but we can't hide here forever. Where do we go next? Elena checked her nav map. The nearest safe harbor was still far, and between them and that point lay open space where the cruiser would easily intercept them. We'll have to make a run for it, she said, but not before we make sure the cruiser thinks we're still here. She explained her next risky move, leaving decoys and false energy trails in the belt, making it seem like both ships were trapped deep inside. While the raiders searched, they'd slip out through a hidden gap on the far side. Kalor nodded. Then let's prepare. Every second we stay here, the net tightens. As they began the setup, Elena knew this was their best chance. But if it failed, the next battle would be against the cruiser itself, with no cover and no second chances. The asteroid belt was quiet again, but Elena knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. The raiders would soon figure out their small attacks hadn't worked, and then they'd send everything they had. She had to make sure they believed she and the Zerath Dawn were still deep inside the rocks while they slipped away. Floating among the dense debris, she activated the Falcon's Edge's decoy emitters. They were small metal pods that could mimic a ship's energy signature for hours. Deploying. "First set?" she said over comms. The Zareth Dawn's crew released a few of their own, adding to the illusion. Silra adjusted their positions so the false signals looked like moving ships weaving through the belt. "It's convincing," Kaelor admitted. "If I didn't know better, I'd think there were at least 5 ships hiding here." "Good," Elena said. "Let's hope the raiders think the same." She led them deeper into a cluster of huge boulders. At the far end was a narrow channel, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. It was the kind of exit that could easily be missed, and it would take precise flying to get through without scraping the hull. "This is our door out," she told Kaelor. "Once we're clear, we head straight for the nearest safe harbor. But we have to be fast. Once the cruiser realizes we're gone, it'll cut us off." They began the slow approach to the channel. The Zareth Dawn's engines hummed weakly, still recovering from earlier damage. Elena stayed ahead, scanning for any traps. For a while, it looked like the plan was working. The sensors showed the raider cruiser still holding position at the belt's main entrance. But then Silra's voice came through sharp and worried. "Commander, new contact, coming in from the far side of the belt." Elena checked her display. Her stomach tightened. "That's not the cruiser," she said. "That's an interceptor wing." 5 small, fast raider craft were closing in from the very direction they intended to escape. "They must have guessed we'd try this way," Kaelor said grimly. "Then we'll have to punch through them," Elena replied. She accelerated toward the interceptors, guns ready. They broke formation to surround her, trying to trap her between them. But Elena's fighter spun sharply, slipping between 2 of them and firing in a tight burst. The first raider exploded in a bright flash, scattering debris into the path of a second, which swerved to avoid collision. "2 down!" she called, looping back toward the others. The Zareth Dawn kept moving toward the channel, its gunners firing to keep the remaining interceptors at a distance. One raider swung low, aiming for the cargo ship's engines, but Silra's shot clipped its wing, sending it spinning out of control. The last 2 interceptors regrouped and made a coordinated run at Elena. Their shots came from opposite angles, leaving her little room to dodge. She pushed her ship into a sudden downward dive, passing just under one raider and firing straight into the underside of the other. Both ships burst into pieces almost at the same moment. "Path is clear," she said, swinging back toward the Zareth Dawn. They reached the narrow channel. Elena went in first, guiding them through. It was tight. She had to tilt her fighter, sideways to fit between 2 jagged rocks. The Zareth Dawn followed, scraping its hull slightly but making it through. The moment they emerged, the stars opened up ahead. And so did trouble. The raider cruiser was already moving. It had repositioned faster than she'd hoped, and now blocked the safest route to the harbor. "They know," Kaelor said. "Then we fight," Elena replied, her voice steady. The cruiser began firing at long range. Beams of red energy streaked across the darkness, forcing Elena to weave constantly. She moved closer, knowing that the cruiser's heavy guns would be less effective at short range. "Kaelor, when I give the word, turn 90 degrees to port and run. I'll keep them busy," she said. The Zareth Dawn's captain didn't argue. "Understood." Elena dived under the cruiser's forward guns, releasing a swarm of micro-missiles aimed at its sensor arrays. Several hit, causing momentary static in its targeting systems. "Now!" she shouted. The Zareth Dawn turned sharply and powered away. The cruiser shifted to follow, but Elena pulled in front of it, firing at its bridge section to keep its attention on her. The raider captain was furious. More fighters launched from the cruiser, swarming toward her. She took them head-on, using the debris from the destroyed interceptors earlier as cover. 2 fighters went down quickly, but more kept coming. She couldn't destroy them all, but she didn't have to. She just needed enough time. The Zareth Dawn's engines pushed harder than they had all day, the damaged drives whining but holding together. The harbor's beacon finally appeared, on their scanners, faint but within reach. "We're almost there," Silra said, her voice filled with hope. Elena saw it too. She triggered her afterburners, blasting past the last wave of fighters and rejoining the cargo ship. Together, they sped toward the beacon. The cruiser slowed its pursuit. They had reached the border of protected space. Raiders rarely crossed, into patrolled zones. "We made it," Kaylor said quietly. Elena stayed alert until the harbor's automated defense platforms locked onto the cruiser, forcing it to retreat. Only then did she allow herself to relax. As they entered the docking bay, the Zareth Dawn slowed to a stop. Kaylor and his crew stood by the airlock waiting for Elena. When she stepped out of her fighter, the alien captain extended his hand, a human gesture he had learned just for this moment. "Commander Voss," he said, "you didn't just save my ship. You saved every life aboard it. We will not forget." Elena gave a small smile. "Just doing my job. But next time, try not to fly into Raider territory without an escort." The crew laughed, the sound echoing through the bay. But deep, in her mind, Elena knew this encounter had sent a message across the stars. Humans were not to be underestimated. The harbor was calm compared to the chaos they had just escaped. The Zareth Dawn rested in a wide docking cradle, repair crews already swarming over its battered hull. The hum of machinery and the steady hiss of welding torches filled the air. "Commander." Elena Voss stood on the deck near her fighter, helmet tucked under her arm. She was still alert, scanning every detail of the hangar. Even though they were in protected space now, her instincts told her to stay ready. Captain Kaylor approached, his posture straighter than it had been in days. The exhaustion was still, in his eyes. But there was pride, too. Silra and several other crew members followed close behind, their expressions a mix of gratitude and respect. "Commander Voss," Kaylor began, "we've spoken to the harbor authorities. They know what happened. They're already sending word to the nearest fleet outposts to increase patrols." Elena nodded. "Good. Raiders shouldn't get this bold without paying for it." Silra stepped forward, her voice more hesitant. "We also sent word to our homeworld. They will want to hear the story in full, not just about the Raiders, but about you." Elena tilted her head slightly. "Me? Humans have a reputation," Kaylor said carefully. "Most of the galaxy thinks you keep to yourselves. They think your kind avoids trouble unless it's your own. But you came for us, alone, when no one else would answer our call." Elena shrugged lightly. "Someone was in danger. That's reason enough." The alien captain smiled faintly. "That is not how most think in these parts." They were interrupted by a harbor official, a tall, four-eyed alien in a crisp blue uniform. He approached quickly, saluting both Kaylor and Elena. "The council has been informed," the official said, "and there's more. The Raider cruiser you faced has already pulled back from the neutral zone. Their leaders are reconsidering their operations in this sector." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Word travels fast. When it's a lone human pilot taking down multiple wings of Raider craft and forcing their cruiser to retreat." The official replied. "Yes, it travels very fast." As repairs continued, a small crowd gathered at the edge of the dock. Harbor workers, traders, and travelers of many species had heard the story. They whispered among themselves, some glancing at Elena with open curiosity, others with quiet respect. Silra leaned closer to Kaylor. "Look at them. They've never seen a human like her before." Kaylor nodded. "And now they will tell others. The galaxy will hear this tale before the week is over." Later, Elena sat in the harbor's operations room with Kaylor and the sector patrol commander, reviewing recordings from the battle. Footage from the Zareth Dawn's bridge and from Elena's fighter was compiled into a single report. It was impossible to watch without feeling the tension. The asteroid maneuvers, the mine trap, the head-on charges. Even the patrol commander, a seasoned veteran, shook his head in disbelief. "I've flown for 30 years, he said. And I've never seen moves like that in a ship that size. You made those raiders look slow. I made them angry, Elena corrected. There's a difference. When the meeting ended, Kaylor walked with her toward the docking area. Once our repairs are complete, we'll be heading home, he said. But before we go, I want to offer you something. He handed her a small metal pendant, etched with an unfamiliar symbol. This is the mark of my clan. It's given only to those who have earned our trust in battle. If you ever find yourself in our territory, this will open doors for you. Elena accepted it with a small nod. Thank you, Captain. As she turned to leave, Silra called after her. Commander Voss, if we ever send another distress call, will you answer it? Elena gave a faint smile. If I can, I will. But next time, maybe call me before you're surrounded. The alien crew chuckled softly, the sound carrying a weight of relief. 3 days later, the news had already spread far beyond the harbor. Independent traders carried the story to other systems, adding details with every retelling. One human fighter against a raider fleet. She flew through asteroid fields no ship dares enter. She disabled a cruiser's guns without losing a single ally. The details grew larger with each version, but the core truth remained. A human had answered a call for help no one else would, Ennui. Distant stations, alien captains who had once dismissed humans as unremarkable began to reconsider. Mercenary guilds debated whether it was worth risking human retaliation. Some raider groups even removed Earth ships from their target lists entirely, and in the human fleet, Elena's name was whispered with a mix of pride and curiosity. In the quiet of her quarters aboard the Falcon's Edge, Elena read through the latest transmission from Fleet Command. Mission logged. Successful rescue operation in neutral zone. Commendation recommended. No further pursuit by hostile forces. Note: Galactic Council representatives have requested meeting regarding human intervention in neutral space. She set the pad down and leaned back. She hadn't gone out there for medals or politics. She'd gone because someone needed help. But now, she realized, the outcome was bigger than the Zareth Dawn. Her actions had shifted how the galaxy saw humanity. And that meant the next time an alien crew sent a desperate signal into the void, there was a chance, a better chance, that someone would answer, whether that someone was human or not. Well, she thought with a small smile, maybe the galaxy would start to believe humans were the kind who showed up.